Is pasteurization responsible for a current health epidemic? Is pasteurization the reason for the false A1 versus A2 milk binary idea being pushed by the media? From my experiences and the books I've read so far, it looks that way, and I'll explain why here in this video. Pasteurization is the process in which certain packaged and non-packaged foods such as milk and fruit juice are treated with heat up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit to eliminate pathogens and extend shelf life. The process is to destroy or deactivate organisms and enzymes that contribute to spoilage or risk of disease. The process was named after Louis Pasteur, who created it in the late 1800s. Pasteurization was originally used to prevent wine and beer from going bad. Pasteurizing milk didn't come until much later. Pasteur discovered that yeast was what caused beet juice to turn into alcohol, yeast being a living organism. He noticed when alcohol spoiled, it had a different rod-shaped microbe called Mycoderma aceti, which is used to make vinegar. He then developed his germ theory of fermentation, later applying this concept to disease and creating today the disaster of pasteurized milk, which is linked with an unbelievable amount of chronic disease. We only know this now that it's been in place for well over 100 years to see the effects of his so-called brilliant discovery. Emperor Napoleon III enlisted Pasteur to rescue France's wine industry from becoming, quote, diseased, and Pasteur applied his so-called knowledge of heating the fermented wine and killing the microbes that cause it to spoil. Not being the first to see that connection, as Nicolas Appert made the connection as well in the process of canning by heating food to preserve it. Pasteurizing milk started in the late 1800s as they thought tuberculosis was caused by drinking milk. According to We Want to Live, written by Augenis Wonderplanets, quote, tuberculosis is a severe detoxification of very volatile toxins that are hormone-related and discharged from the lungs. These toxins may affect other glands, organs, and tissues as the toxins travel through the blood. The volatile toxins are mainly formed from eating cooked green foods in people who lack enzyme mutations from eating cooked greens, including smoking, tobacco, or herbs. See, if I lack enzyme mutations, what food should I avoid? Page 174. Avoiding cooked greens, plus eating plenty of raw green salads, and plenty of hearty foods like pasta with raw fat and raw beef or raw beef sandwiches has strengthened and healed tubercular sufferers without permanent damage and without medication. The first law to require pasteurization of milk was passed in Chicago in 1908, and a lot of people didn't like the idea of pasteurization in the beginning, for many of the same reasons that today's raw milk advocates cite. Louis Pasteur also invented vaccines, which are linked with ALS, MS, autism, and a myriad of other life-ending conditions. According to We Want to Live, page 133, quote, after many years of experimentation, Louis Pasteur realized that the idea of vaccination was doomed. He confessed on his deathbed to his assistants that a poor, parentheses, toxic environment within the body creates disease. Microbes do not cause disease. After studying Augenis Wonderplanets and many others' work on pasteurization, this is the natural conclusion that any rational thinking person would come to. Why would God create an animal with milk that could kill us and give us ill health and disease? It doesn't make logical sense, because we've been drinking raw milk for thousands of years with no problems before this. The issue is our modern cities became toxic with man-made chemicals and pollution, which are the cause of disease. All disease is caused by man-made chemicals and toxins, period. Disease doesn't come from nature. These people want you to fear microbes and nature, the things put here to protect us and nourish our bodies. The ego of man prevents it from seeing themselves as the creators of disease. God didn't create disease, and neither did nature. On to the A1 versus A2 milk controversy and false binary concept. A false binary concept is when the media pushes a this versus that idea, making you believe there is a war of concepts going on, but it's always missing a major factor. In this instance, it is missing the concept of pasteurization. The book Devil in the Milk by Keith Woodford is all about the A1 versus A2 milk idea, proposing the idea that A1 milk causes disease and A2 does not. Based on we evolved drinking mostly A2 milk, and over selective breeding, now we have mostly A1 cows in America. A1 and A2 are just specific proteins in the milk. It's really not important when you realize it's all from boiling the milk. Really stupid when you finally understand this like I have, after researching this for 2 years. Devil in the milk links drinking A1 milk with diabetes, heart disease, autism, sudden infant death, and other diseases that our current system is trying to tell us is caused by eating animal foods, the only things that can heal these diseases. It's a very inverted concept, and if you know anything about the truth of our world today, we are living in a world of inversion where they tell us up is down, left is right, men are women, women are men, right is wrong, and wrong is right. The Bible has alluded this 2,000 years ago where it told us, let your no be no and your yes be yes, as a way of avoiding these inverted concepts. It's really interesting when you realize people are flipping truths on their head and selling you the exact opposite is true, and can be extrapolated into almost everything today. Augenus Wonderplanets alluded to this in his quote, "Whatever the medical professions tell you, 99% of the time do the opposite and you will be correct." He was on to this idea of inverting truth. The book Devil in the Milk by Keith Woodford has only one small section on pasteurization on page 70, but it is quite damning. Quote, "Pasteurization. Before leaving the epidemiological evidence, it is worth looking briefly at some issues relating to milk pasteurization." Cran McLaughlin put forward a suggestion in his medical hypothesis paper that both the historical increase and subsequent decrease in levels of heart disease worldwide might be linked to the method of pasteurization. He drew together evidence from a range of sources that show that as pasteurization of milk was introduced in various countries and regions within countries, within a few years there was a marked increase in the level of heart disease. Prior to 1950, the major method of pasteurization was the Holder method, 63 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. Subsequently, this method fell out of favor, largely because of the distinctive cooked flavor it gave the milk. In the 1960s, there was a move to short-time, high-temperature methods, 90 Celsius for 15 seconds. And by 1980, these had been predominant. This change was soon followed by a decline in heart disease levels that cannot be satisfactorily explained in terms of the classic risk factors for heart disease. Cran McLaughlin was not the first person to put forward the possibility of a link between pasteurization methods and changing levels of heart disease, but he did take the argument further than previously. He hypothesized that the heat treatment regimen used in the Holder method was leading to protein breakdown and providing an increased level of BCM7 from A1 beta casein. It's an interesting proposition. The evidence looks quite strong, and it seems to make a lot of sense in terms of what we know about what happens to proteins when they are heated. Unquote. As you can already see, there is much proof that pasteurization is killing the milk, and as a result killing us by the mutations to the proteins and also removing all that beneficial bacteria for our guts. Raw milk is one of the best foods for us, full of beneficial proteins, fats, enzymes, stem cells, and bacteria. According to We Want to Live by Augenus Wonderplanets, page 192, milk, pasteurized, homogenized, and genetically engineered. Like all other cooked and processed foods, pasteurized and homogenized milks are a nutritionally deficient food. Pasteurized and homogenized milks create dry and coarse hair, skin, glands, and brittle bones that can easily break. Pasteurized and homogenized milks have been linked to causing osteoporosis and diabetes. You should draw your own conclusions, but to me this evidence is damning towards pasteurization, especially since my health has done nothing but incline since starting raw milk almost 2 years ago and eliminating all pasteurized dairy. We drank raw milk for thousands of years without pasteurization. The only logical explanation for modern disease today is chemicals, toxins, and pollution, not the milk. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos.